Okay, and I've started tonight's stream. Okay guys, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Alright, for those of you that have been following the channel, you guys know that I started a little project I call the Obscure Window Manager project, where I'm going to be reviewing 12 minimal window managers. Here is the list of 12 that I will eventually review on this channel. I've already reviewed FVWM, which was kind of a beast to get around. JWM I reviewed just a couple of days ago. That was a really nice minimal window manager, very similar to Openbox, which I'm going to be reviewing tonight. Then I've also got to take a look at, down the road, PECWM, Qtile, TWM, which is Tom's window manager, Xmonad, Awesome, Fluxbox, Herbstluft, WM i3, and the ICE window manager. And Analog says hello. Hello, Analog. Hey, Tony. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and fire up the virtual machine that I've been installing all these window managers on. Get this resized right for you guys watching the stream. Alright, and I'm back into this virtual machine. Again, we've already taken a look at FVWM and JWM. You know what? Since I don't think Openbox is going to take me very long tonight, I'm just going to go ahead and log into FVWM and JWM so you guys can check this out in case you missed my review of them. This is pretty much the FVWM desktop that I set up. I basically went through the config files on video, made these little launchers at the bottom left, bottom right, got this pager at the top right, and then this is the Rofi launcher that I've got on startup just appearing. But FVWM is a pretty cool window manager. It took me like 3 days of looking around the internet and trying to figure out the config files for this thing. But I was glad I looked at it. I may revisit it down the road, but let me log out of that since it's not the topic of tonight's discussion. Joe's window manager, we'll briefly log back into that. Again, I just did a review of Joe's window manager, no, I want to say about 3 days ago, 2 days ago. No, it was about 3 days ago. Anyway, Joe's window manager, again, very similar in look and feel to Openbox and Fluxbox. Even accepts pipe menus, you know, such as this dynamically created menu here for my recently used documents. So, lightning fast too. Joe's window manager. Matter of fact, while I've got it up, let me pull up a terminal. I'm going to fire up HTOP and memory. 132 megs of memory is what it's taking right now. That is insane. And I'm going to exit out of Joe's window manager and log into Openbox. Now, I haven't done much with Openbox yet on this virtual machine. So basically, this is going to look like what it's going to look like for you guys when you first install Openbox. You have a black screen or some solid color screen. It varies from distro to distros. I've seen it as a brown screen, a black screen, but it's just going to be a solid color screen, and you have a right-click menu. Now this right-click menu may be populated with a few things, it may not. I actually have a few things in mind, but these are hard-coded. These aren't actual programs that I have installed on my system. For example, you see a lot of KDE programs in these menu lists. The full LibreOffice suite, I didn't install any of this on this virtual machine. So most of these links are dead. So I'm going to open up a terminal, Xterm. I know I've got Xterm on this system, so. Alright, I will briefly discuss, for those of you that want to install Openbox on your existing system, how you would do this. Tonight, of course, I'm running Manjaro, so in Arch and other Arch-based Linux distributions, you would sudo pacman -S Openbox obconf for the Openbox configuration manager. And it's not necessary, but you probably want the OB menu, which is the menu utility. It helps you, add and remove things from the Openbox right-click menu. So those three things, hit enter, log back out of whatever window manager you're currently using, get to your login manager, and you should see Openbox as one of the available sessions. Of course, I've already got Openbox installed here. This is what we're in right now. Alright, let's see if I can pull up a file manager. PCMan-FM is installed on this machine. Now, your default configuration for Openbox is generally in your .config file. In your home folder, you have a hidden folder called the .config folder. This is where, as the name suggests, a lot of configuration files live on your system. And you may or you may not have an Openbox folder in here. If this is the very first time you've installed Openbox on the system, you probably will not have an Openbox folder, so you need to create it. So I'm going to choose Create New Folder here, and Openbox, lowercase. And this is where your default menu and your RC files and all that stuff is going to end up being populated. So first of all, let's see if I can locate where the actual default Openbox configuration files are. You know, these that you see by default on your system. Let's see if I can find where some of this is on this system. Of course, just searching for Openbox returns a million files. I would be searching all day for that. How about locate menu.xml? That returns a lot too. How about rc.xml? Okay. And the first one right here, /etc xdg openbox rc.xml. So I'm going to open up PCMan-FM as sudo PCMan-FM /etc xdg openbox. Of course, give it my root password. Alright, these files right here. These are your default files. Really, these two here, I'm going to copy over. I'm going to copy these right here. And then I really don't need this window open anymore. And menu.xml, this is our default menu here. This is our right-click menu. Very easy to modify this. It's well laid out. You see it's very similar, and it's XML, very similar to HTML for those of you that do any kind of website development. You have your tags here, like menu, item, action. Menu, you have ID equals, in this case, apps-accessories-menu. That would be the ID of this particular menu, which is accessories. How it's labeled, accessories. You could actually give these menus an icon. could do icon equals, and then the location to some icon on your system. I'm not going to play around with icons, at least not right now, because that's a massive job to assign an icon to every single thing in this menu. And looking back in the chat, let's see. The stream audio is echoing. Okay, I'm sorry about that. It's much better. Thanks. I actually didn't know it was echoing, but you guys are having a problem with the audio. Yeah, speak up, and I can adjust the settings. Is the mic level high or low? Or alright, and apparently it's working great, the mic level. Thanks, Kerwin. Comrade also mentions it's okay. Fun with Shell. It's okay now. Okay, so I guess the audio is fine. Alright. Just want to make sure these default configuration files are owned by my home user. They are. Just want to make sure we have good permissions on everything before we get started. Alright, so you know what? I minimized that Genie text editor that I was modifying my menu.xml file, and I don't have a panel or anything by default in Openbox, so Alt-Tab will cycle back to that program. So you need to know Alt-Tab to tab through your open programs, because if you start minimizing stuff in Openbox without a panel, you know. Alright, so how these menus work. Well, I'll pick one to modify. Accessories. The first thing in it is calculator. Calculator. See, item label calculator. That's the name of the calculator. The name of the program is calculator. And the next thing is action name equals execute. So this is basically saying we're going to execute a program. The program name, GNOME-calculator, is the name of the program that this link would launch. Now I don't have GNOME-calculator installed on here, so if I click on it, you know, it's going to give me an error saying failed to execute child process GNOME-calculator, no such file or directory. So, but I could change this to a program that I do have installed on this system. For example, I do know that I have the LeafPad text editor on this system, so I'm going to create a new item, label it LeafPad, and then the execute command for LeafPad is simply called LeafPad. I save that. Save the menu.xml. Then we need to reconfigure Openbox. There should be a link in your right-click menu for reconfigure Openbox. If you don't have that link in the terminal, type Openbox space -- reconfigure. Reconfigure it. Now when you go back here, I have LeafPad instead of calculator here. When I click on it, failed to execute child process LeafPad. Oh, I guess I didn't have LeafPad installed on this system. Oh well, but that's how that would work. I do know I have the Termite terminal installed. Let's try that one. Let's actually try one that will launch something. Save again. Reconfigure Openbox. Now right click. Termite is here. Yeah, and Termite launches. Now that is how you would set up your right click menu manually. And a lot of people do. In fact, for most of the time I've been using Openbox, I've been using Openbox for about 10 years. Much of that time I just create my own right-click menu manually. I just create my own categories, my own programs, set it up exactly the way I want. That's tedious and that's time-consuming, at least the first time you do it. If I had to do that, it would take me a couple of hours to do it. Now it's a one-time thing. It's not something you're going to be editing a lot, because once you install the programs you like, you're probably not going to be installing and removing a lot of programs. But there are automated ways of doing this. So let me pull up a terminal. Let's see, Firefox is one of the links under Internet in our right-click menu. That's good. If it wasn't though, I could open up a second terminal and launch Firefox from it. But anyway, I'm going to go to google.com. Yes, google.com, not DuckDuckGo. So, I'm going to search for a program called Mcmanager. Right here on SourceForge, what is Mcmanager? Mcmanager is a menu generation utility for X window managers on Unix systems. It is capable of finding lots of installed programs and generating a root menu. Basically, it is a program that creates that right-click menu for us. It finds all of our .desktop files, basically all your desktop applications, and creates a menu out of them for you. And it does this for a variety of window managers. It does this for Blackbox, Desk Menu, Fluxbox, Ice Window Manager, Openbox, PECWM, Window Maker, and XFCE. So on most Linux distributions, you're going to have to build Mcmanager from source. You're going to have to download it and build it from source. It's not something you find in a lot of repos. I've actually already built it on this system, so you guys didn't have to watch it on camera. And once you have it, I believe the command to run it is mmaker, and then the name of the window manager you're wanting to create a menu for. Again, there was about 5 or 6 that it supports. Openbox, of course, is the one we're doing tonight. So mmaker, Openbox. Hit enter. Let's see. Alright. Did that actually change anything? No, I got an error message. No terminal emulator specified. Will use the default. Refuse to override existing file. Okay. Well, let's delete the existing file that it can't overwrite. It can't overwrite these. Try that one more time. Okay, now I created that file, the menu.xml file. Unfortunately, it looks like it is the exact same files from before. So it really didn't create anything for me. No, it didn't. It says no terminal emulator specified. We'll use the default. Let me make sure that is the correct command for Mcmanager. I better not launch Firefox from the terminal. Let me just go ahead and launch it from our menu here. Oh my goodness, did my VM crash? It did. Well, these are the things that happen on a live video. Keep in mind that Openbox is one of the more straightforward of these window managers that I planned on reviewing, which is why I chose to do this one live. You can imagine some of the problems I have on some of these other window managers. For example, that FVWM window manager I reviewed. I probably spent a total of, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours in that window manager over the course of about 3 days before actually doing the video. And you know, I ended up making, I think the video was almost 45 minutes long for FVWM when I actually recorded the video, but there was many hours of me spent. Hey, you know what, now that that virtual machine crashed, did you guys notice when I restarted the virtual machine? This is the Mcmanager window. I mean, the Mcmanager menu. This is all my programs. So I guess I needed to log out of Openbox and log back into it. But this is actually the proper menu. Okay. Well, I'm glad the virtual machine crashed, because I probably would have spent 15 minutes trying to find what happened to this menu. So, And Kerwin mentions that the blooper reel would be fun, yeah? Fun with Shill. We're experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by. Well, you know what? We are experiencing some technical difficulties, but that technical difficulty really bailed me out of a difficult situation, because that solves one of my problems. Simply closing the virtual machine and restarting it got me my menu. Alright, but enough of that. Let's go on with the install of Openbox. So I'm going to open up a terminal, and if I didn't already have it installed, I would have to do sudo pacman -S tent2. Tent2 is the panel that I'm going to install for Openbox. You guys that are on Debian or Ubuntu based systems, sudo apt install tent2. So let me launch tent2. Tent2. And this is the default look and feel of tent2, I believe. The very first icon in the tent2 panel is the tent2 settings configuration. Basically, this is where you would go and change the look of the tent2 panel. For example, if I double click on that, it changes it. Change it to a lighter color theme here. Actually, it doesn't look like this is working. There may be some permission problems here with the tent2 panel. Either that or, you know what, the themes may be missing. That's probably what it is. Some of these themes probably don't exist on this system. Because I did move some folders and stuff around in the .config folder earlier, mainly to get back to a default install of Openbox. So I bet I might have messed up some of the tent2 config stuff. So, but anyway, you guys see how the tool would work if it was working correctly. You just click on your new theme. Again, this first icon here opens up your settings manager for tent2. Then you just pick a theme here. Of course, none of these default themes are very attractive. Honestly, you're probably just going to want to pull out the tent2 RC, their config file, and edit the tent2 panel to look and feel the way you want it to, which I'm going to get to that actually here in a little bit. Let me go ahead and close that terminal, which also closes tent2. I'm going to go back to our file manager if I can find it in here. I think it's under shells. Shells, file manager, PCman, FM. Alright, I'm going to go back to our .config Openbox. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to create a new file. It needs to be titled AutoStart. AUTOSTART. All lowercase. AutoStart. I'm going to open this in a text editor. And you know what? For you guys watching the stream, this is LeafPad. I am actually going to open this in Genie. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I can zoom in Genie. So you guys see what I'm about to do. Tent2 space and save. I'm going to close this. Also going to exit out of Openbox. Now I'm going to log right back into Openbox. You guys see the tent2 panel now launches on AutoStart. So let me go back to that AutoStart file and add a few more things. So .config Openbox AutoStart. Again, I'll open it in Genie. Zoom in a little bit. Alright, some other things that we're going to want to launch for our AutoStart. Compton, our compositor. Nitrogen, we want to set our wallpaper, so nitrogen space -- restore. And then the ampersand. Each line needs to end with an ampersand. So there are 3 programs to launch on AutoStart. I'll go ahead and add one more, just for fun. Rofi -show space run ampersand. Save this file. Let me exit out of Openbox. I'll log back into Openbox. Now I have a background. Thank you, Nitrogen. We have the Rofi launcher, starts on AutoStart. We have the tent2 panel, and we told it to do some compositing with Compton. I'm not sure if I installed Compton or not. Let me check. Open up a file manager. Is there any kind of shadowing? Yeah, can you see the drop shadow around the windows? So the compositor is working. And already, just from spending a few minutes here in Openbox, we already have a pretty nice desktop set up. Really, the Tint 2 panel, menu maker to create your right-click menu, and then nitrogen for setting your wallpaper. You have those three programs in the Compton compositor. From here, you're good to go, really. You really don't have to do a whole lot of manual editing. You guys didn't see me play around, you know, in any text editor, playing around in any config files yet. The only thing I did create that auto start file, but your grandmother could write a couple of lines of an auto start file. So to get to this point, which I think most people would be okay with at this point, really only takes a few minutes. So, and let's revisit the chat, see what's going on. We've got Omar in the chat. What's going on, Omar? Houston, we have a problem. Yeah, that crash. That was a very fortunate crash, so I'm really glad that VM crashed at that time. Alright, let's continue on. Let's see where we want to go with this. You know what, I will show you guys how to really get into some of these configuration files. Like I said, as it's set up now, you could kind of live in it. But most of you guys are going to want to do some more advanced stuff. So, alright, in the .config folder again, .config, you should have a folder called Tint2. This is where your default Tint2 config file should live. It's called Tint2RC. I'm going to open this in Genie. And the Tint2 config is pretty straightforward. You have settings for color, for setting the panel to the top, to the bottom, left, right of the screen. You can set your borders, the thickness, whether you want borders rounded. Pretty much you can set the width of the panel. You want it 100% of the bottom panel, or do you want it, 50%? You can make it kind of resemble a dock. You can have icons only in the taskbar. You can do text only, which is what it's doing right now. You can do icons and text. But just to play around a little bit, I'm just going to play around with these settings. So background color right here, background panel. The main background color is 00000. That's black. And then the number behind it, 80, that is some transparency. Instead of black, let's make it a different color. Let's make it, you know what, let's just make it a weird red looking color. Just so we can really see the change. Now I need to open up a terminal here. Kill all Tint2. And launch Tint2 again, Tint2. And now you see the color of that panel is that hideous looking reddish pink color that I chose. But you guys get the idea there. It actually does have some transparency, that 80% transparency. I don't know if you guys can tell against the really dark background, but there is some transparency going on. If I didn't want any transparency, I would make this 100 instead of 80. Kill that terminal. So, Tint2. And now that transparency is gone. So it's pretty straightforward. Color, and then opacity. And it does allow you to do gradients. For example, see if I can find some gradients here. I actually haven't played around in a Tint2 config in a while. I pretty much had mine set up for years. Well, you know what, going through this config, right here in the panel, the border color is set to a really dark gray, almost black. Border color hover. See, default task, iconified task. Yeah, I could play around with this, but you know what? I'm not going to. I'm going to show you guys how I set up my Openbox stuff so I don't have to spend hours doing it. Let me reconfigure Openbox here. Let me just go ahead and log out. I'm going to log back in so I have my Tint 2 panel back. Of course, it's still going to be that hideous red color since I had saved that file. But we do have a launcher for Firefox here in the Tint 2 panel. Okay. I'm going to go to GitHub. I have my dot files on GitHub. What are dot files? They are all the configuration files that exist on your Linux system. Those are the files and folders that start with a dot. These are basically configuration files for your various programs that you run. It's a good idea to save these to something like GitHub. That way, when you have to do a fresh install, you wipe out a machine, or you have some kind of major breakage of a machine and you have to reinstall. You don't have to spend hours again getting Openbox, for example, back up and running the way you wanted, because I saved all my files here, all my .config files. For example, here's my Tint 2. Here's my Tint 2 RC. Let's see if I can just copy this thing. I'm not sure how long this file is. Probably should just download it. I'll just copy it straight into the text editor. Let me open up Genie again and go to .config, Tint 2, Tint 2 RC. Highlight everything and just paste over it. I'm going to paste my old Tint 2 RC config file. And this is my Tint 2 RC file. There are going to be a few things that are not working correctly when we look at the configuration of it. For example, I had a bunch of quick launchers in this file right here that should appear at the beginning of the panel, but I don't have these launchers on this virtual machine, so they won't appear correctly. It's something I need to port over to the virtual machine down the road. Still lots of voice echo on the stream. And what's going on, Miguel? Now I could go to the trouble of going back to my GitHub page, going back to the .config folder here in my GitHub page. Now that I've got my Tint 2 config, I can pull down my Compton config, I can pull down my Openbox config, I can pull down all these Openbox pipe menus that I've accumulated over the years, borrowed from various people. Some of them I've written myself. But I think earlier today I actually went to the trouble of downloading all these anyway into this virtual machine, so I am going to go ahead and just copy them over. I think I saved them all in documents, yeah. Well, I didn't pull down the pipe menus. Well, that's unfortunate. Well, I guess I will have to go back to my GitHub page because I really want to show you guys those pipe menus. I don't know why I get all these warnings about privacy in Firefox. That's kind of scary though. Anyway, so .config, Openbox. You know what, I'm just going to pull down the entire folder, I think, if I can. I'll just pull down the entire repo. Alright, so we've got that taken care of. You know what, I really wish I had that Tent 2 panel back up. You don't realize how important having some kind of panel or dock is until you have one crash on you and it's no longer available. Alright, so we have a panel again. Alright, so here are all my dot files I pulled down from my GitHub repo. I'm just going to copy that entire Openbox folder over. Then I'm going to reconfigure Openbox. And here it is. This is actually my customized Openbox right-click menu that I actually use on my main system. Again, these are my personal dot files. It actually includes all of those pipe menus I've written, like the time and date one here. This is a dynamically created menu. Gives me date, time, the day of the year, the week of the year, system info, which gives me information about this machine. Of course, this is a virtual machine. So I have various scripts here that launch. Of course, they're not on this machine, so that doesn't do anything. The music player here, this runs the Dead Beef music player. If I have it installed, I'm not sure. Let's see if yep, Dead Beef is on the system. So this is a dynamically created menu. It will give me track and runtime here in the menu. Can play, pause, stop, next track, previous track, or quit the Dead Beef music player. All from this pipe menu. Of course, we have our recent files pipe menu. And our desktop pipe menu. This is our virtual desktops. It even gives me the programs that are open on each desktop. I think I also have a Steam pipe menu here. Yep. This will list all the games I have installed on Steam. Of course, in this virtual machine, Steam is not installed, so there are no Steam games here in this menu. But you guys that are wanting to play around with Openbox and pipe menus in particular, just pull all that stuff down from my GitHub page. Just put that somewhere on your system. I like to put it in .config/Openbox. I create a new folder in that called pipe menus. Just stuff them all in there. I know the problem with the echo, guys. Did that fix it? You know what? I did have a computer speaker on. I'm actually wearing headphones, so I didn't realize it, but I had a computer speaker on in this room too. So that was causing the echo. No, that didn't fix the echo? I talk like Siri's husband? Okay. Well, I guess we're having some audio problems tonight. Let me me pull up the video, the live stream here on YouTube. Let me actually take my earbuds out and see if I can actually hear what the audio sounds like. The live stream here on YouTube. Let me actually take my earbuds out and see if I can actually hear what the audio sounds like. The live stream here on YouTube. Let me actually take my earbuds out and see if I can actually hear what the audio sounds like. And see if I can. The live stream here on YouTube. Is it all good now? Okay. Well, I'm going to continue on. Okay. So I guess it's straight. Miguel says all good. Kerwin said there was some feedback. Yeah, that was my fault. Before the live stream started tonight, full confession, I was running really late. I actually ran into the house here like 30 seconds before 7 o'clock, and I knew I'd scheduled this live stream for 7, so I just jumped into this computer chair and threw on some headphones and hit the start streaming button, and I didn't even think about having some of my computer speakers plugged in and turned on, so that definitely causes some mic feedback. So alright, let's see if I can remember where I was here before. Let me go back to the downloads folder, my dot file, see if there's anything else here that I want to port over. My Compton config, I guess I could go ahead and do that. So in .config, in your home folder, .config, there should be a folder for Compton. There's not, in my case. I'm going to create one. Compton. And Compton.conf, Compton.config, that's where that needs to go. Now that I've moved some of this stuff over, I'm going to exit Openbox. I'm going to log back into Openbox just to make sure everything is working as expected. Okay, the panel launched, Profi launched on auto start. Let's see. The Compton compositor looks like it's working. Have my shadowing around my windows and around the menus. We could add some transparency effects if we wanted to go that route. I usually don't do transparencies, but I know a lot of folks like them. I do not like the blue window border theme. It really doesn't fit with the kind of black and white, gray background that I've got going on here. So we need to open the Openbox Configuration Manager. That was one of the programs I told you guys you would need to install. obconf for Openbox Configuration Manager. And I'm going to change the theme. And I've got some pretty cool themes already installed on here. Let's see, I'm going to need a dark one though. Onyx would work. And I do have some transparency actually going on with the Compton Manager. I guess I did include some transparency in that configuration that I pulled down from GitHub. Very slight transparency. And that's actually pretty cool. That gray there, I may just go with that, at least for purposes of this stream. Yeah, I quite like that. Don't know if I'll keep it, but it works for now. So, I have my right-click menu set up the way I want it. I have a panel kind of set up the way I want it. There were a few things going on with the launchers. Some of the launchers I'm used to having in my panel. I have quick launchers for the browser, for the terminal, and for a text editor, and for the file manager usually in my panel. They're not here, but I can add them later. But that is basically Openbox. a very, very quick setup of Openbox. I didn't spend a lot of time with it, but to be honest, you guys have seen me install Openbox so many times on the stream. I did a very detailed video on Openbox a month or two back, where I did a minimal install of Debian. I took the mini ISO of Debian, which just installs the base Debian system, no graphical environment of any kind, and then installed an Openbox session on that. We had to install basically the login manager, the window manager, all our graphical programs, and by default, that mini ISO comes with no GUI programs of any kind. So for those that are wanting a little bit more detailed info on Openbox, check out that video. But a lot of you that are wanting a quicker way to get into Openbox, just pull down somebody else's config files. To be honest, that's the best way to get this worked out. Also, it's the best way to learn how to play with some of these configuration files, because a lot of times the people that put these files on GitHub, they will leave comments in the files. They will tell you, hey, this is what this setting does, this is what that setting does. It's usually laid out a lot better than the default vanilla configs that a lot of these programs come with. Also, you can download more than one config file, play around with it a bit, mix and match things. Pipe menus. I mentioned pipe menus earlier. Let me show you that music pipe menu, how that works. I'm going to open it up. Now, it is this one right here for the Dead Beef music player. And basically, my menu.xml file from earlier, remember this is our file that basically does our right-click menu. This lists all the programs in our right-click menu. Let me show you where the pipe menu for the music player is in this file. Right here. Let me zoom in. So menu, execute, and then the location of that pipe menu. deadbeef.sh. It's a shell script. And the ID and the label, music player, is what I labeled it. And that is what you would put in your menu.xml. And the program, the deadbeef.sh program, basically, again, is a shell script. It creates basically the XML tags that you need to add to that menu. And then it does some shell script stuff. For example, let me right click on the desktop. I have a menu here called Playlist. If I had any playlists on the system, which I don't because it's a VM, I've never run Deadbeef in this VM, but this lists all my playlists. How does it do that? Well, you see right here, for file in, then ls, which is the list command in the command line, ls, and it lists basically all the playlists in a certain folder on my system, which this folder doesn't exist in this VM. But basically, it is telling this right-click menu to list everything in a certain folder. It's listing everything in a certain folder that ends with this extension, .dbbpl, which is the playlist extension for Deadbeef. And, that's kind of how these shell scripts work, these pipe menus work. If you know a little shell scripting or you know a little Python scripting, Python scripts also work for these Openbox pipe menus. And then some of the execute commands, play, pause, stop, next, previous, are all right here. Item, label, play, execute, deadbeef space -- play. That is play right here. Then right below it, deadbeef space -- pause. And that is pause. And same thing, deadbeef space -- stop is the stop command. You could do all these commands for Deadbeef in a terminal. And I could dead beef dash play, would launch dead beef and play whatever track it was on. There's no music on this virtual machine, so but basically any command that you could launch at a command prompt, you can execute in one of these pipe menus. So really, the possibilities are endless for these Openbox pipe menus. Omar mentions, is there any script that can add everything like menus in Openbox? Yeah, Omar, at the very beginning of the stream I mentioned Mcmanager. There's a program called Mcmanager. It's a tiny little program. You do have to compile it. It's not in anybody's repos. At least I know it's not in Debian's repos. There may be an AUR package if you're running Arch. I'll have to check on that. But it's Mcmanager, all one word. And a Mcmanager, you just run it from the command line, and it creates a menu for Openbox, JWM, Fluxbox, PegWM, and IceWM. What you do is, once you have it installed on your system, mmaker to run the program, and then the name of the window manager you're trying to make a menu for. So if we were in JWM, we would type mmaker space JWM. In Openbox, mmaker space Openbox, which is what we did here tonight. I ran this command, and then my virtual machine crashed shortly after that. Well, when I logged back into the machine, I had, you know, a working menu that had all of my desktop applications already linked in this menu. Every single file, .desktop file on your system gets linked in this menu. And why does Mcmanager choose all those .desktop files to populate that applications program or applications menu with? Because there is a bazillion applications installed on a Linux box. Think about every command you can run from the command prompt, from the shell. Those are programs too, but you don't want all those programs, those shell programs, in your right-click menu. It would be a very large menu, and most of those you're never going to really use. You're not going to right-click, you know, on the desktop and then want to run, you know, the ls command and, you know, the cd command or anything like that. You don't want all of that. You just want the again, your desktop applications, those GUI applications. So Omar mentions everything means all apps. Not sure what is everything, Debian. I meant menu panel, right-click menu, clock, desktop widgets. No, there's nothing like that in Openbox. Again, Openbox by itself is basically just a window manager. It is the frame around the window. It is this top border of the window is Openbox, and it is your right-click menu on the desktop. That's Openbox too. But everything else you have to add on your own. For example, you mentioned clocks and widgets. There's nothing like that by default in Openbox. You have to use third-party programs. So if you want a panel, you have to install a panel. I always choose Tent 2. It's what you guys see me install on these videos. But you can install other panels. You could install the LXDE panel, or you know, the XFCE panel, or BM panel. I don't think that one's still developed, but there's other kind of lighter weight panels. You can install a Docky, or Plank, or anything like that. You could do this completely different than the way I do it. You can make an Openbox session look, you know, like I wouldn't even recognize it. You know, you can do a lot with Openbox. So, you know what we didn't discuss? Key bindings. Shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts for Openbox. Let me show you guys where those live. In your .config Openbox rc.xml. And this is where all your key bindings reside. See right here, key bindings for desktop switching. Control Alt left runs this action, go to desktop. So basically you have 4 virtual desktops by default, in Openbox, you can increase that number, decrease that number, but Control-Alt and the left arrow key moves me over one desktop. I'm on desktop 2 now. Control-Alt left moves me over one more desktop. I'm on desktop 3 now. Control-Alt right moves me back to desktop 2, back to desktop 1. And here are all those key bindings right here. And I would suggest the first time you install Openbox, if you're not familiar with some, especially the default key bindings, read through the rc.xml file. You will find a lot of functionality in Openbox that you would otherwise you would have no idea existed. For example, W, which is capital W, that means the Windows key, the super key, and D right here toggles show desktop. So super D toggles the desktop. See, hides all the applications on the desktop. Key bindings for Windows here. Alt F4. Now these are my own custom key bindings, some of these. Alt F4 closes a window. Actually, these are not my default. This is the default rc.xml. This is not my custom rc.xml because mine is a much longer list. I've added a lot of extra stuff in mine. Matter of fact, why don't I go ahead and get my rc.xml file so you can see some of the functionality that I've added to mine. So this one is mine. I'm going to copy it. I'm just going to paste it over this one. Save. Now we need to reconfigure Openbox. Again, you can do this from the terminal, Openbox space dash dash reconfigure, or you can choose reconfigure Openbox from the from your right-click menu. Okay, now it messed up my theming by porting over my rc.xml file, so we have to go back and set our theme again. But now let me show you some of my custom key bindings. So, being a Debian guy and running Ubuntu a lot too, I always like the key binding to open a terminal. Control-Alt-T to open a terminal. So, Control-Alt-T. I've got that set right here. The super key and enter I have set to run Rofi. See what else I have here. I actually haven't looked at my rc.xml file in quite some time. Looks like I have some default key bindings for Thunderbird. For PCMan-FM, Windows +1 on the keyboard opens PCMan-FM. The Windows key, the super key, +2 opens Firefox. The super key +3 opens Thunderbird. I didn't install Thunderbird on this system. And I could play around with this a bit more. We could set up some various tiling functionalities. Fun with Shell. Going back to some of the chat that's been going on while I was playing around here. If you are looking for a minimal window manager with all this included, check the previous episode about Joe's window manager, or Ice window manager is similar. Yeah, those particular window managers come with a panel by default that's already set up with a clock. And Ice window manager comes with a menu that's already configured for you. I don't think you really have to set that one up. I could be wrong about that. Joe's window manager, you do actually need to configure a little bit. Menu maker, of course, works for Joe's window manager. So. Analog, asking about advantages to Fluxbox over Openbox. I can tell you, having used both Fluxbox and Openbox, there are no advantages really to using Fluxbox. Openbox really has more functionality to it. The only thing Fluxbox has a panel by default. And it's a pretty good panel, the Fluxbox panel. Like, I wouldn't change it. I mean, you don't have to use the default panel that comes with Fluxbox. I mean, I could use the Tint 2 panel, but the Fluxbox panel's pretty good. If I'm running Fluxbox, I usually just stick with the panel that comes with it. But Openbox, again, has some more functionality to it that Fluxbox doesn't have. In particular, pipe menus that I've been discussing. Fluxbox, you can't do any kind of dynamic menus, so. And Northern 867. Do key bindings have to be inserted under a keyboard section? I'm assuming you were asking about the configuration file. Yeah, they have a section for mouse binding, so the mouse functionality. Then key bindings here are under keyboard. There's a tag right here, keyboard, and that's where all the key bindings start. And of course, Fun with Shell had already figured that out. Yeah, he's looking for the tags keybind and mousebind. Okay. Yeah, actually, these XML files, the menu XML and the RC XML, that's your two config files basically for Openbox, and it's XML. So it's really easy to figure out how to config Openbox. There's nothing confusing. You don't have to know any programming at all. You know, it's different than a lot of other minimal window managers where you really need to know some, you know, Lua or Python or Haskell or some of the other languages that I'm going to have to know a little bit about for some of the window managers coming up. Qtile, which is coming up very shortly in the list of 12 window managers I'm reviewing, is written entirely in Python. Everything is in Python. The config files, everything, it's all Python. So if you don't know Python, that can be tricky. Awesome is configured in Lua. I don't know much about Lua, but you know, I can look at other people's config files and work my way around Lua a little bit. Haskell, I know enough Haskell to be dangerous, mainly because I've lived in Xmonad for a little while before, but Xmonad, it's all Haskell. Everything is Haskell. The config file is Haskell. So Openbox, you really don't need to know any programming at all. I'm going to copy another RC XML file here. I'm going to show you an even more configured rc.xml file. And show you the power of Openbox. Now in this key binding section of this particular rc.xml, we have this section called Tiling Windows. You see, this is just a comment to let me know this is where all my tiling functionality starts with these key bindings. So and basically what all these involve are the Windows key, the super key, Alt, and then the keys on your keypad. For example, Windows, Alt, and 1 on the keypad. You see where we tiled to? Windows key, Alt key, 2 on the keypad, 3 on the keypad, 4 on the keypad, 5 on the keypad, 6 on the keypad, 7 on the keypad, 8 on the keypad, 9 on the keypad. And the super key by itself, and 1 on the keypad, 2 on the keypad, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that is a little bit of what you can do if you want to do some pseudo tiling with Openbox. It looks like the echo is back again. Sorry about that. I really wish I could do a test stream here on YouTube before I actually start the live streams in OBS, but that particular functionality in OBS, the test streaming functionality, YouTube doesn't like it. They actually ban you when you run a test stream. So it's unfortunate that OBS even includes that feature. Don't ever click that button, guys, because it will get you banned for 90 days. Omar mentions that was awesome. Yeah, the tiling functionality, yeah. And I actually don't have this rc.xml file uploaded to my GitHub page. I should upload this one, though, with all this extra tiling functionality, because I normally don't use these. At least not all the ones I just showed you. It's kind of overkill having about 18 different ways to tile. Usually I just like doing, if I'm going to do some tiling, just half the screen, right half, left half. I don't need to divide the screen into a grid of 9 windows. And I have some 24-inch monitors, 3 24-inch monitors. I'm still not trying to put something in 1/9 of the screen. That's kind of small. And that is really everything with Openbox. I mean, you guys just saw everything there is to Openbox for the most part. That menu.xml file, that rc.xml file, that is everything in Openbox to configure by default. Now, the third-party programs like the Tint2 panel or whatever panel you install, your dock or whatever, obviously you may want to throw some Conky up on your desktop. I didn't even think about Conky. Do I have any Conkies? Yeah, I do. Let me add a Conky folder in the .config file here. Let's see. Okay. Let me launch Conky. So Conky space -c, which is for config, and then the location of some Conky config file. So I have it in .config/Conky. I believe I called it openbox.conky.rc. And it may take a second for this Conky to load because it's going to have a lot of information in it. Fun with Shell. Have you ever tried a multi-panel configuration with any of these smaller window managers? By multi-panel, do you mean like having a top and bottom panel, like 2 instances of the Tint2 panel? And if that's what you're asking about, I actually have done some of that. The transparency is not right on that Conky. Let me just kill Compton, just for sake. I can't type Compton right today. Kill all Compton. There, it goes away. Anyway, yeah, one for apps, one for systrate. Yeah, I have done that. It's actually not that hard. You can actually launch 2 different instances of the Tint2 panel. You can have, and just, you need to have 2 different Tint2 RC files. And in one of them, you need to have it set to the top of the screen, and the other one you need to have it set to the bottom of the screen. Matter of fact, one of the distros I reviewed that it came with Openbox out of the box was Salient OS. It was a Debian-based Linux distribution, and it included Openbox with the Tint2 panel, and it used 2 instances of the Tint2 panel. It included a full-length one, 100% width at the top. And then it also included a smaller one centered in the middle of the bottom screen. And it was basically kind of like a dock. It just had some launchers in it. So yeah, you can do stuff like that. And if you wanted to, you could do more than 2 instances of the tint 2 panel. I mean, you could do one on the left-hand side of the screen too. The tint 2 panel does allow you to use all 4 corners, all 4 sides of the screen. Yeah, if you want to start moving or playing around with having more than one panel open on the screen, Omar mentions he prefers plain. Yeah, if you're trying to make one of your panels kind of look and function like a dock, yeah, I would probably just go ahead and install a dock. Plank is nice, lightweight. Maybe do the tint 2 panel at the top and then plank at the bottom. But really, you don't. Me personally, I don't like wasted space on the screen. You never really need 2 panels or 2 docks, or one is enough. Again, just my personal preferences. I just feel like that's wasted space, since I like to maximize a lot of windows, especially like web browsers and text editors. And I have more screen real estate if I don't have a panel at the top and a panel at the bottom. One panel, either at the top or at the bottom, and I just stuff it with as much crud as I need on it. All my launchers, the taskbar, sys tray, whatever. It all goes in one panel. Anyway, the conky, I was talking about this, and I forgot that it even loaded up here. This is basically the conky. It's a system monitor that sits on your desktop here. It's got some system information, CPU, top processes for CPU and memory, uptime, the latest version of the kernel, packages we have installed. I've got 939 packages installed on this VM. We've got one update that's available. I won't bother running the update though. Also has those shortcuts I showed you in that rc.xml file, the last one, particularly the one that had all the tiling functionality. So, this particular conky is a modified version of one that came in Mcmanager Linux, which is a Manjaro-based Linux distribution that uses Openbox. I basically ripped off their conky, changed a little bit of it, added some stuff, removed some stuff, changed some coloring. Mcmanager is no longer developed, unfortunately. I really loved that distribution when I reviewed it, but the ISO that I used was almost a year old, and I think the one developer that was behind that Linux distribution, he doesn't plan on continuing that project. It's unfortunate, but that's often the case with open source projects. So many of these are one-man shows, and all it takes is somebody to lose interest, get tired, get burnt out. So, could you check CPU and RAM without conky? Yeah, I actually should do that, especially since I did it with Joe's window manager. So let me kill conky. Let me run htop. We're using about 9% of the CPU. No, well, it's going to settle down now that some of let it settle down a minute. Okay, now we're under 1% of the CPU. Yeah, that's pretty normal for Openbox. It uses almost no CPU. Memory, 375 megs of memory. That is a little high. Why don't I log out and log back in? And when I say that's a little high, I mean just a little high. Usually 250 to 300 is probably where it ends up. Of course, it varies depending on how you set up Openbox. You know what? I know why this one's going to be a little higher. It's 397 megs. I have a sys tray here in the Tint 2 panel. This is the package manager. Is checking for updates, and that actually does use a lot of memory. So let me kill the Tent 2 panel just to kill all that. Of course, it still didn't kill some of those services that were running. But anyway, it looks like it's settling on about 360 megs. It's a little high. For a lot of Openbox distros that I've reviewed and Openbox sessions I've set up myself, again, 250 to 300 seems to be about where it's at. When I opened up Joe's window manager earlier and showed you guys that it was only using about 130 megabytes of memory, that was insanely low. You don't see window managers use that little memory. But that Joe's window manager that I set up, I don't think it was running any kind of sys tray in that panel. I don't think we were running any kind of like background services or anything. I didn't spend a whole lot of time setting up Joe's window manager when I made my review video of it. So this particular instance of Openbox is using all my config files. It's running a lot of stuff. It's also running the Compton compositor. I'm not sure if I had Compton running in Joe's window manager when we logged into it earlier. I may not have. I don't think I was using it. Matter of fact, I know I wasn't using it because I never set up any kind of auto start program for Joe's window manager when I reviewed it. The only thing that launches by default when I start up Joe's window manager is nitrogen -- restore, and that's it. So that is the only thing that is run when we auto start JWM, at least right now. If I lived in it, obviously I would have a lot more stuff on startup. Anyway, so that is a very brief look at Openbox, even though we've been streaming for about an hour and 15. I really could have done what I just did if I was editing video. I mean, I probably spent 15 minutes actually configuring Openbox to look like this tonight. And I kind of cheated, pulling down all my config files from GitHub. But to be honest, I think that's what 95% of most everybody's going to do, is just use somebody else's configs, at least for a base, you know, and then edit those configs to suit you. Fun with shell, just for fun. My server is using 35 megs. Well, with a few SSH instances, RC, etc. Yeah, that's cool. A lot less overhead, something like a server though, not having all those graphical programs running. But 35 megs, wow. Okay, before I quit the stream tonight, we should briefly discuss what is coming up soon on the channel. Let me exit Openbox, because this will be fun. I actually have not logged into some of these. Let's check them out, how they look before I get started on them. So the next one in the list, I'll make a video on probably within a week or so. PEC WM. This one is another window manager, very similar in look and feel to Openbox, Fluxbox, Joe's window manager. Basically, out of the box, you get a solid color screen and a right-click menu. Now, this right-click menu, is that actually populated with all my stuff already, or is this just randomly set up? Yeah, I'm not sure. You know what, I may have run Menu Maker on PEC WM, because this does look like all the stuff I do have installed on here. But this is PEC WM. Let's see if I can open up a file manager. Let's just open up something so you guys can see how this looks. Anyway, there's the window manager, that orange color out of the box. It's not a bad default theme, actually, the orange with the white window controls. You'd have to get creative with a wallpaper, pick something appropriate for it. Anyway, let me exit out of PEG WM. After that, Qtile would be the next one. Qtile, again, is a tiling window manager written entirely in Python. It does come with a panel by default. It comes with this panel here at the bottom. It has got 8 desktops set up by default, which on your keyboard, hitting the super key and then A, S, D, F, U, I, O, P moves us around the desktops. Being a tiling window manager, super key and enter usually opens the terminal. That's what it does here. Super Shift C, I think, closes it. No. Is it Alt Shift C? No, it's not that one either. I'll be messing around with it all day trying to figure out the default config. Of course, I need to figure out the default config to exit Qtile now that I've actually loaded it up. I know it involves the letter Q. Is it? You know what? I might have to Google that one. I don't know the default key bindings for Qtile because on these tiling window managers, you basically configure it to your liking. So all the key bindings I changed to, what I'm used to from using other window managers. So let's see. You know what? We did know how to use a terminal though. Why don't I just Yes, that's cheating, kids. I should have just looked up the default key binding, but one of you have already got it. What's that? Mod Control Q. Okay, so Super Shift Q. Okay. That was actually going to be the next one, I guess. So, anyway, looking at some of these, Tom's Window Manager, TWM, I know absolutely nothing about. I don't even think I've logged into this one yet. So, wow, what in the heck is this thing? Left-clicking on the desktop gives me that, whatever that is, and I don't know what to do after that. I'm just going to go down here and choose Exit. Ooh, yeah, that one's going to be a fun one. That's going to be another one like FVWM. That's going to be a nightmare, I think. So, Xmonad, I know quite a bit about Xmonad, your standard tiling window manager. So, I did know the default one for that, the default key binding to quit that. Awesome. Awesome is a tiling window manager. Awesome is a great tiling window manager for people that are just starting out with tiling window managers because there's some added functionality to Awesome that make it easy for new users. For one thing, it comes with a panel by default. Some tiling window managers, like Xmonad, do not come with a panel by default. You have to install a third-party panel and configure it. Awesome also comes with a right-click menu. Includes links to a terminal, your config file, restart, quitting Awesome. And yes, you can actually find programs that will automatically populate Awesome's right-click menu with all of your desktop applications. But this kind of menu is not something you would really use much in Awesome because it's designed really to be used as a tiling window manager, basically using the keyboard. You're not going to be doing pointing and clicking with the mouse. That's not really how Awesome works. So, but the good thing about having this right-click menu here with some of this functionality included is I don't have to know the default key binding to quit Awesome. I can just use quit from this menu and get out of it. So that really helps, the first time you launch some of these. Fluxbox. Fluxbox is Fluxbox. You guys know what it looks like. Looks like Openbox. Solid color background. Right-click menu. And yeah, this right-click menu, I've already run Menu Maker on it. This is So it's already populated with all of my .desktop applications. And this is the Fluxbox panel by default. Fluxbox comes with its own panel. Somebody was asking about the differences between Fluxbox and Openbox. That's one of them. Fluxbox comes with a panel. But again, I like a lot of the functionality in Openbox more than Fluxbox. For example, you saw some of the stuff we could do with the key bindings, some of the tiling stuff. The pipe menus in Openbox are a fantastic feature. Fluxbox does not have those. Also, development. There's not much development going on with either Fluxbox or Openbox. I won't say they're dead projects, but development is slow. Not a lot of commits to them. But Openbox has a much larger following behind it, mainly because it's the default window manager in the LXDE desktop environment. It's also one of the default window managers in LXQT. It tends to be the one most LXQT desktop ship with is Openbox. Although you can use things like the XFC window manager in LXQT. And you can even use KWin in LXQT if you wanted to, although kind of defeats the purpose of running a lightweight desktop if you're going to install KWin. Luft WM. I have absolutely no idea about this window manager. So, I don't know any of the default key bindings. I know nothing about it. This is the first time I've ever launched it. So, this may be another one I actually have to open a terminal and kill. So, okay, Alt plus Enter is the default key binding to open a terminal. That's awesome. I'm not even going to try to find the exit command. I'm just going to restart like DM again. Okay. i3. Now this is the Manjaro i3 edition that I'm doing all this on. So this is kind of a configured i3. I mean, it's still a minimal i3. I mean, they just added a little bit of functionality to it, but it's still pretty much a base install of i3. There's still not too much to it. I'm not sure how to close windows, but they do include this conky here. Let's see if they included the exit command. Yeah, mod key plus 0. So super 0 on the keypad. And let's see, E for exit. Okay. And then the last on the list is Ice Window Manager, which I don't know much about the Ice Window Manager, but it looks pretty straightforward. It comes with a panel by default, and that panel includes a dock. Looks like it includes a sys tray. Includes our virtual desktops. You can add quick launchers to it. We have our menu. Now I did populate this menu, I think, with Mcmanager. This was like the Mcmanager menu, the same one that we ended up with in Openbox and Fluxbox. So. It's also a right-click menu on the desktop. It's the exact same menu. Ice Window Manager, though, looks very simple to use out of the box. It looks like you can use it, so pretty straightforward. So that's some of what is coming up down the road. So we have 3 of these window managers down, and of the 3 I did FVWM, JWM, and Openbox. Out of that group, FVWM was kind of tough. It was kind of tough to get around FVWM. JWM, Joe's window manager, I really never played with it, but it was pretty straightforward. Openbox, I know a lot about Openbox, so of that first group, that group of 3, one of them was kind of tough, the other 2 were alright. And I think that's probably going to be the pattern with the next group of 3. PEGWM and Qtile, I know a little bit about. They're pretty straightforward. TWM, from what I saw, we logged into it a second ago. I don't know what's going to go on with TWM. I really don't know anything about TWM. I know it stands for Tom's Window Manager, but we'll see how that goes. After that, looks like the rest of them are pretty straightforward. Mcmanager and Awesome and Fluxbox are going to be smooth sailing. Luft I don't know, i3. A lot of people use i3, so there are a lot of i3 config files out there for me to pull down. I'll just copy some of what somebody else is doing. Nice window manager. Looks like it's pretty much squared away out of the box. So out of this group of 12, only about 3 or 4 of them I think are going to give me some issues. The rest of them pretty straightforward. So I imagine it'll take me, at the pace I'm going, I'm going to try to review at least one of these window managers every week, because I don't want to just focus on these window managers. I still want to review distros and maybe review some other apps. Maybe do some more terminal stuff. You guys seem to like the terminal video I did the other day on Cal, Say, and Fortune in particular. Might do some fun terminal stuff. A lot of people focus on the nuts and bolts in the terminal, but you can have a lot of fun with the command line too. So might do more of that. But it'll probably take me, I don't know, a couple of months to get through this entire list of 12 window managers. I keep getting people asking me about other window managers. In particular, BSPWM. I keep getting people asking me about that. Enough people have asked me about it. I will review it, but let me get through this group of 12. I've got to get through these before I review anything else. But once I get through these, I'll probably take a look at BSPWM. I had one person ask me about DWM. I may or may not look at that. It depends. If there's a big demand for it, I may. But DWM, the Dynamic Window Manager, awesome window manager, basically grew out of DWM. It's a fork of DWM now. Awesome went on its own path. I mean, it really resembles. It doesn't resemble DWM at all these days, but I might review DWM. I don't know. Jokingly, one guy asked me to review rat poison. I'm not going to review rat poison. Rat poison hasn't been relevant in probably 15 years. Fun with Shell. From this group of 12, I would choose FBWM, PECWM, and ERPSLUFTWM. Those are pretty fun to work with and customize. Yeah. Of those 3 that you would choose, PECWM is probably the one that I would choose out of that bunch. It seemed like it was pretty straightforward. But I don't know much about the ERPSLUFT thing. But I mean, it's a tiling window manager. Those are usually pretty straightforward too. I mean, tiling window manager. A tiling window manager is a tiling window manager for the most part. They all kind of function very similar. I will tell you that if you use multi-monitors like I do, I have 3 monitors set up. They do function a little bit differently on multi-monitors between different tiling window managers. Some of them treat multi-monitors a little differently than others. Manjaro has a ISO file with a pretty nice configured BSPWM. I would check that one for a start. Okay, well that's good to know. It's I guess it's a community respin of Manjaro that has BSPWM. I will actually check that out. That's actually probably what I do. Matter of fact, that actually knocks 2 birds with 1 stone, because that counts as a distro review and a window manager review, since I've never used BSPWM. Anyway, we have been streaming about an hour and 34 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and kill the live stream, guys. I appreciate you guys joining me this evening. I hope you enjoyed this little review of Openbox. It wasn't much of a review, but I've done so many videos on Openbox now. I probably should have actually just left Openbox out of the list of 12 window managers and just picked a different one. Maybe added BSPWM in the list and dropped Openbox out. But I love Openbox. It's kind of one of the hallmarks of my channel, is that I spend so much time in Openbox. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining me this evening. Peace.